Sometimes, people take things way too far. Whether it's a small misunderstanding that turns into a massive conflict or a simple mistake that leads to extreme consequences, history is full of over-the-top reactions. From entire wars to bizarre bans, here are 10 of the most dramatic overreactions ever recorded. 1. The War of Jenkins' Ear, 1739, an entire war over one ear. In 1731, Spanish sailors allegedly cut off British Captain Robert Jenkins' ear. While this was certainly rude, the British reaction was extreme. They declared war on Spain. The conflict, known as the War of Jenkins' Ear, lasted nearly a decade. An entire war, all because of one missing ear. 2. The Tulip Mania, 1637, people paid fortunes for flowers. During the Dutch Golden Age, tulips became a symbol of wealth. Demand skyrocketed, and people started paying outrageous prices for tulip bulbs. Some were worth more than entire houses. When the market collapsed, many lost everything, proving that even flowers can cause financial disaster. 3. The ban on sliced bread, 1943, too convenient for wartime. During World War II, the US government decided to ban pre-sliced bread, claiming it would save resources. People were furious, and newspapers were flooded with complaints. The backlash was so strong that officials reversed the ban after just a few weeks. Turns out, people really love their sliced bread. 4. The Boston Tea Party, 1773, dumping tea to make a point. When the British imposed heavy taxes on tea, American colonists didn't just protest, they dumped an entire shipment of tea into the Boston harbor. While it was a strong political statement, it also wasted an enormous amount of perfectly good tea. Even today, it remains one of the most dramatic acts of protest in history. 5. The Wrong Color M&Ms boycott, 1976, a protest over candy. In the 1970s, Mars removed red M&Ms from their candy lineup due to concerns over a specific food dye, even though their version was safe. Fans were outraged and started a campaign demanding their return. After more than a decade of complaints, red M&Ms finally made a comeback in 1987. 6. Napoleon's attack on rabbits, 1807, a bunny invasion gone wrong. French leader Napoleon Bonaparte once organized a rabbit hunt for fun. His men gathered hundreds of rabbits, but when they were released, instead of running away, the rabbits charged at Napoleon and his men. The small animals swarmed them so aggressively that Napoleon had to retreat. 7. The Leaning Tower of Pisa's early construction halt, 1178, decades of overthinking. When builders realized that the Leaning Tower of Pisa was tilting, they stopped construction for nearly a century. Instead of trying to fix it right away, they simply waited, hoping a solution would magically appear. Eventually, they continued building, but the tower still leans to this day. 8. The Straw Hat Riots, 1922, violence over a fashion choice. In the early 1900s, wearing a straw hat past September 15th was considered a fashion crime. In 1922, a group of people took it too seriously and started attacking men who refused to switch to felt hats. The chaos turned into full-blown riots, proving that some people take fashion rules way too seriously. 9. The Eiffel Tower almost being torn down, 1909, a beloved landmark nearly destroyed. When the Eiffel Tower was built, many Parisians hated it, calling it an eyesore. In fact, the city planned to tear it down in 1909. The only reason it survived was because it proved useful for radio signals. Today, it's one of the most famous landmarks in the world. Good thing they kept it. 10. The Metric System Rebellion, 1790s present, people refusing to measure things differently. When France introduced the metric system, most of the world eventually adopted it. But some countries, including the US, refused to switch. Even today, debates over metric versus imperial measurements can get surprisingly heated, proving that people take their rulers and measuring cups very seriously. History is full of extreme reactions to small issues. Whether it's banning sliced bread, starting riots over hats, or going to war over an ear, these over-the-top responses remind us that sometimes, people just love to make a big deal out of things.